Hi, I'm Scott Miller. Welcome to my Top Performance blog. I have the pleasure of speaking with Birgit Valla, a psychologist from Norway and the director of Stange Commune Mental Health Services. Hi, Birgit.
Hi.
How long have we known each other?
I just wrote about this. It must have been at least 10 years, I think, maybe longer.
Well, and I have learned so much from interacting with you and from your work in Norway, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because something that's happened in Norway, and in particular at your agency involving you, I think is really quite surprising and also revolutionary.
Yeah.
Before we go there, could you
Mm.
just tell us a little bit about the situation in Norway with regard to mental health? In particular, what are the challenges that the Norwegian practitioners are facing and mental health services want to resolve?
Well, in Norway, there's this big shift from all of the mental health services has been within the hospital system. Now they want it to be more out in the communities and have highly qualified professionals working in the communities and catching people who are in distress earlier. So I guess that's the big political sort of what's happening now.
Yeah.
I know that the practitioners within the hospital systems are frustrated with there's too much administration, too much paperwork, things that they have to do that it doesn't seem necessary to them. Yeah.
And you were part of that movement,
Yeah.
as I understand it. Your agency was designed to service people living at
Yes.
home rather than being put into an institution.
Yes. Yeah. So when I started in the municipality of Stange, where I work, this was in 2009.
Yeah.
Then this whole shift had started. My whole idea was that we should do mental health services in a better way. I was working within the hospital system and I was frustrated about all the things we were doing that didn't make sense to me.
Mm.
And the outcomes were not good, both in my experience, but also from the research literature that I read.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had this mission at your agency that you were going to strive for something better, for excellence.
Yeah, that was my whole idea. I didn't know what we would do. I just knew that we had to do things better.
So what did you do? If you had to outline a series of simple steps, at least, I know
Yeah.
it wasn't simple, but what would
No.
those?
So what we started was that because what struck me all those years ago is that we were doing a lot of things that was not important to people, didn't matter to them, but it was mandatory. You had to do them. And we were doing very little of, or too little of what was very important to people, and which they told me was crucial for them to get better. And my idea was if we just ask them and get feedback on what is important to you, and we worked with that, and then they would give us feedback on the results or the effects. So did it help them, but not from client to client. So we asked, how can we help you? What matters to you? And then track results and then see where that leads us. So that was the basic idea.
And you were tracking results using standardized scales or
ORS, SRS.
Yeah.
The FIT.
And
Yeah.
somehow or other, you began to discover that when you did this, your outcomes started to improve.
Well, I didn't know my outcome. I knew my outcomes before that, but I didn't know sort of the agency's outcomes. But I don't know outcomes before and after from where I worked before, but I know that we are helping a lot more people in a lot shorter time.
You had that because you were administering the measures, aggregating the data, looking at the data.
Yes, and we have done this very systematically. We use the outcome measures on all the clients, every session. So it's very strict. So the interesting thing is that we always start by asking people what is your problem, how can we help you, what matters to you, and then we can move a lot faster to helping them with what actually matters. We don't waste people's time.
Doing what?
Doing all these assessments and to find the diagnosis, to start with a method that people aren't really interested in. We waste, and that was my hunch all those years ago, that we were wasting our time and their time doing things that was really not necessary.
Okay, so now let me just back up a little bit and see and make sure everyone understands what you're saying.
Yeah.
You decided not to do what the core of modern clinical practice is.
Yes.
You weren't going to do these long assessments, tests and measures. You weren't or scales, personality tests. You weren't going to follow some rigid treatment protocol.
No.
Well, what did your staff do besides simply saying, what do you want?
Well, they were at first they were terrified, because what they said was, before I always knew what I would do when a client came in. I start the assessment, I did this, and then if that was the problem, we did this approach. So I always knew what I was going to do. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. So we train them to be flexible in their meeting. But psychologists in the 70s knew how to do this.
Yeah.
And they do now too. So this is not, it's not something very unique about us. But I think actually, this might be sidetracking this interview, but I think the more methods we are getting and the more assessments we are getting, the stupider therapists will become. Because they stop thinking for themselves and they rely too much on these tools that are not really necessary.
So you wrote a book.
Yes.
That I blogged about. It's been 3 years now since the book has been out.
It's 2014. Yes.
Right. The Norwegian title was Videre.
Yeah.
And it means
further.
And your idea in the book was to what?
Was to take the field of mental health further. We're not going anywhere.
Right. What I want to highlight, however, is what happened when the book, and I heard that you did an interview and you came to the attention of the regulators in your area, the people who pass the rules about how you're supposed to work. Can you say what happened?
Well, this was actually last year around wintertime, not this year, but last year. There was also internationally people criticizing the diagnostic system, the DSM. There have been some books about that. And I was thinking maybe I should be a bit braver, because what we saw when we were working with clients was that diagnosis didn't matter to them. It mattered to some. I'm not saying that it didn't matter to anyone, but it was just a tiny, small amount of people it mattered to.
Yeah.
So we didn't spend time on that, and because we did whatever helped them, and that wasn't it. And then I said that I criticized the diagnostic system and that we are not diagnosing.
You said this in a public forum.
I said this on several, both on national TV, but also on on this. It was this news story on a web page. So
can I ask you, Birgit, did you think this through before you did it?
Well, the thing is that think it through. I don't know. Probably not.
You were armed with the facts in terms of
I always thought that if I could, I've been obsessing about the outcomes. I thought that if I could show the regulators and the authorities and people that our outcomes are good, how can they not let us work like this? So I thought sort of my outcomes were on my side, and then every reasonable person would think that would be.
And let me just take a point here to sort of toot your horn a little bit. Your outcomes are good, and this isn't something you made up. Neither is it an outcome like how many people you see per year. You've measured the effectiveness of the clinicians seeing their clients, and the outcomes you achieved are equal to or better than the outcomes that we get in randomized controlled trials of so-called evidence-based practices.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
They are. And I know where our outcomes are not so good, and I know where they're. So we know where we should work to get better, because I don't want it to sound like everything is perfect, because there are lots of things we don't. Yeah. Okay. So I talked about this, and then. But the thing is that in Norway, if you're a healthcare professional, or at least a psychologist or psychiatrist, in order to do what we call it professional sound care, standardized care, you have to diagnose.
That was the rule.
I try to understand it, but if you're not doing it, you're basically not following the law.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought that through, maybe. So
and
it
so
was
what
only
happened?
me. I was speaking loudly. Now, then the health authorities issued an investigation or review on me first, and then they expanded to the whole Stange Health, my agency that I run.
Wow. So first they investigated you.
So then they did to all my staff.
Okay.
Well, not all my staff, but they picked some journals. Yeah.
How long did this investigation go on?
It went on for a year. We didn't hear anything. And there was this long period of nothing happening. We sent in documents, half a year, nothing happened. And then we got a letter. We want more documents. We sent in more documents, half a year. And we got the letter from them with the sort of answer, which was
guilty.
Guilty as charged. And breach.
I'm just thinking that couldn't have been much of a surprise to them, because you'd said so on national television.
But I'm so naive. I was thinking they can't find us guilty or breach of duty, because what we're doing it's so good.
Your outcomes
and everybody
are great.
Loves it. Our outcomes are great.
So what did you do? You get this letter, because I can tell for me what I would be tempted to do if I got such a letter from my licensing board, or saying that I was in breach of standard of care. That must have created a great deal of anxiety.
Yeah. Well, somehow it did, but I have a lot of friends. So I reached out to everyone I knew, and they were, and I got a lot of support. But I have to say, my superiors, the leadership in Stange Kommune was very supportive.
Wow.
Yeah. And if it had, because it's their responsibility in the end. And the politicians love us. The national politician says that the whole country should work like we do.
I'm sorry, that last speech you said the politicians were saying everybody should work like you do?
Yes. We had visits both from the Minister of Health and from spokespersons from other political parties were coming to see us. This is too good.
There wasn't a moment when you said, I guess we'll just have to capitulate, just give in to them.
No. I wouldn't continue working if I had to do that.
And so what happened?
No, so then I reached out to a lot of people nationally. But what happened in the end was that the politicians came to our rescue. actually the Minister of Health and his ministry. So they issued this document, which is a guideline, rundskriv, it's called in Norwegian, to help professionals interpret the law. And it said, basically what it said is, you're allowed to work the way they do in Stange. You don't have to diagnose. That's
Right.
what, and this was a huge. It sounds, when you read the document, it doesn't sound very revolutionary, but when I had to read it 3 times to get what it said.
Yeah.
But they open a door that has been completely locked before.
Right. And then open the door to help people in whatever way will help
Yes.
them.
Yes. So actually what we're doing now is that we're going to do even more help on the telephone when people call us. Because what we've been doing up to now is that they have been given an appointment with a therapist and everyone comes in to see us. But now we're going to do more guidance and suggest. I don't think we should take away people's ability to help themselves.
Right.
So it's coming into therapy definitely has its place, and we should do that. But I think also we may be too quick to do that, and people have a lot of resources and ideas, and they have a lot more ideas than we have if you put them all together.
Right.
And about what will help them.
Wow. Birgit, if you just had advice for other leaders in the field, because I've heard several things that really stick in my mind about how to spread this very revolutionary change that's taken place in Norway. If you had 1 or 2 pieces of advice for leaders and practitioners, what would that be? I
think that the thing is to be brave. That's what you need to be. And to do, because that's the thing. The reason we did this was because we've been brave. If we weren't brave, we would just have done what the authorities told us to do, and we would never have experimented with these new ways of doing things.
Right.
Because we wouldn't have dared, and with good reason when you saw what happened.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And so do that, but at the same time, track results. If you don't have results, you have nothing to show for.
Right.
Then you just have good intentions.
Right. And so you're not advocating anarchy, that everybody just gets to do whatever the hell they want.
No, because my service is probably stricter than most on telling the therapist what to do. But at the same time, they have a lot of autonomy. But I'm really strict at the outcome measuring. So they have to be responsible for what they're doing. And if you don't track outcomes, and these outcome systems are not perfect, but they are a lot better than therapists saying, I think I'm helping people because it feels that way.
If I may also add, it seems as though another and third important piece in your story was when you were brave, you didn't have to charge in alone.
No.
And something must have happened that people said, you're right, Birgit, we're going to support you, rather than, okay, you're on your own.
Yeah.
What was it? How come they did that?
I think that meant the world that I got all this support. I've been just along the way, I've been connecting to people, talking to people, being very open about, I never kept any secrets, sort of kept my company secrets to myself, or so open to what we're doing, and always had this I just want to make better services. And so I think people think there's something genuine about that. I don't know.
Well, that's certainly my experience of you, Birgit. Let me just ask, if someone wanted to reach out, I know you're busy and doing one thing after the next, but if somebody did want to reach out and exchange an email with you, how would they get a hold of you?
they have send an email.
Okay.
And I'll answer as soon as I can. But try to ask about things that I can answer.
Okay.
Because if the questions are too difficult, it takes a long time to. No, I'm kidding. But send email. That's
Okay.
the best. Definitely the best way.
Thanks, Birgit,
Yeah.
for talking with me.
Okay.
And
thank
congratulations.
you. Thanks.